And pick a little with the musical folks at Deering Banjo Company in San Diego. With more than 300 days of sunshine every year, breathtaking beaches, an easy desert lifestyle, and enough bases to host the largest naval fleet in the world, San Diego is really the all-American city, which makes nearby Spring Valley an appropriate home for one of the largest makers of a quintessentially American instrument. Deering Banjo Company is run by the eponymous Greg Deering and his wife, Janet. If you haven't heard of them, it's only because you don't play the banjo yourself. Everyone who does knows the name Deering.
What brought you to the banjo? I mean, why didn't you tinker a new birdhouse or a mousetrap?
Well, I fell in love with the Kingston Trio as a real young kid.
All right, sure.
And then a friend of mine had an album, and he played the guitar along with it, and I thought that was magical. And he had a guitar, so I said, I want a banjo. So I went and got a banjo and started playing, and then when I got into college, I needed a better banjo and couldn't afford it, so I built one. And then another one, and the next thing I know, I was in the business.
It was 1975 when the musical world began beating a path to the Deering's living room and workshop. Today, their banjos are built in a huge factory and played all over the world.
Our goal for the showroom is for it to be the mecca of the banjo world, where every banjo player's got to make a pilgrimage there at least once. And so far, we've had some that have come several times.
Oh, yeah.
So we get visitors from all over the world here.
World-renowned banjoist Jens Kruger helps design Deering banjos.
The banjo is a real American instrument, and all the styles of American, music, they use the banjo, in different ways.
Most experts agree that the banjo originated in Africa as a drum-like instrument made from a gourd with 3 strings attached. Slaves who had been dragged here refashioned it on these shores, and it was later popularized by a minstrel performer named Joel Sweeney. Since then, the banjo's versatility has been tested and never found wanting by some very creative musicians. For instance, John McEwen of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
One of my missions with the banjo was to try and get it on the airwaves, and the Dirt Band came along, and I took an old-timey style and started off the song. I started singing, and this became the rhythmic backup. And to get that on the radio was like, yeah, it's out there.
It's hard to hear that sound without wanting to pick a little. That's why Deering began building an affordable starter model called the Good Time Banjo.
And then when I started playing the banjo, I wish I'd had a Deering Good Time Banjo, because I had one that was like a baseball bat with strings on it. I don't know if I'd been any better or we would have had 2 more hits or whatever. See, the Deerings here have a mission that I'm totally behind. They want to change the world 5 strings at a time. And I think they're doing it.
Coming up on Made in America, some sounds greater than the parts at Deering Banjo. Welcome back to Deering Banjos, where modern banjos are built the old-fashioned way. Banjos are composed of 3 main parts: the neck, the pot, and the resonator. It takes a lot of skill and almost as much wood to turn them into an instrument.
This all comes from the Northeast.
Sugar maple.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's where your maple syrup comes from.
Yeah.
So maple syrup and banjos.
There you go. That's why banjos are so sweet.
The necks are cut first, by hand, of course.
It's appropriate that you're making a musical instrument with a bandsaw.
I suppose it is, yes.
2 wooden pieces called ears are glued onto the neck. The truss rod is inserted. Now comes the part where the banjo gets its mojo. Thanks to Arlene.
This is a custom banjo. It's walnut, and the inlay will be mother of pearl, abalone, and silver.
How do you know how deep to go?
Well, it's kind of a gradual process. You just keep going deeper and deeper, and as an artist, you kind of know when you get there.
Right. That's beautiful, and that's really an art that there's not a lot of people could do that.
The banjo's pot looks a little bit like the underside of a tambourine. Deering constructs the Good Times pots out of wood veneer strips that are glued together and smoothed on proprietary sanders.
I've never seen a machine like that before. Looks like a pottery wheel or something.
Kind of like that. It's a lathe, but it's made just for sanding round parts. Nobody sells this kind of machine. When you want something like this, you have to build it.
In fact, that's exactly how Greg built his company. You might say it was a reward for following his father's advice.
Yeah, my dad taught me to be a good craftsman. From, you know, a real young age, he was teaching me how to think about it, how to do it better. Not always showing me how, but challenging me to figure it out.
Like father, like son, like 50 employees, Greg oversees their training personally.
This is where Tony puts the necks on. This whole drum assembly we call a pot, like pots and pans.
Uh-huh.
That's because some of the old guys in the old mountains used to cut the bottom out of a pot and make a banjo out of it. Tony puts 20 to 30 of these together a day.
Do you play banjo, Tony?
A guitar.
So you're the guy that everybody invites to the parties, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Tony, bring your guitar and banjo.
On Fridays at lunchtime, Tony and a bunch of the guys like to jam. So we get great concerts at lunchtime on Fridays.
The banjo's last major component is the resonator. Without a resonator, well, it just wouldn't resonate.
This resonator really makes the banjo louder. You know, it projects better. When you put the resonator on, the banjo will actually be louder, you know, for the audience.
Can we hear the difference?
Now I take the resonator off.
It's a real big difference.
It's a big difference.
Of course, if that's not loud enough, there's still the electric banjo, a Deering innovation.
When we first came out with it, people laughed at us. I thought, isn't that a stupid thing?
Yeah, they did the same thing with the airplane.
Yeah, they quit laughing when people like Bela Fleck started playing them in the Dixie Chicks.
Right.
In the world of musical instruments, oboes can be mistaken for clarinets and violins for cellos, but nothing else sounds even remotely like a banjo.
One of the beauties of the banjo, I think, is you can't be sad playing a banjo.
No.